Hi there, I've been joined by James from the Love of Wrestling here at the For Love of Wrestling event today, number 2, just finishing up for the evening now. James, first and foremost, how are you keeping?
Do you know what? We're all right. This is the crazy part of the weekend. I mean, we've been at this now since obviously it's been a year in total doing the setup, but actually setting the event up itself's probably been kicking off since earlier in the week, and then Thursday we've all sort of been stationed here in Manchester. Many of us live here as well. We've probably been surviving on perhaps 2 or 3 hours kip a night since Thursday, maybe Wednesday. So normally about 2 o'clock on a Sunday you really hit a wall, but you've just got to power through. And you can sort of walking around seeing all the staff, lots of glazed looks on people's faces, but everybody just working together to just get it over the line. And what we're seeing at the event itself, really helps us do that. I mean, just we're constantly being stopped, being thanked, like yourself, being thanked for how the weekend's gone, how dreams have come true, how many ticks have been put in bucket lists, and just the opportunity to meet those moments. So I think we're in a similar state to the fans. We've had an amazing weekend. We're all a little bit shattered, but it's been worth every single second.
Yeah, and I think you touched it there. Like a lot of us are on our last legs, but everybody will be floating out here by the end of the day. Like myself included, it's the opportunity to meet various different people. But at the same time, there's a huge number of collaborations involved in a project like this. Like you can see from the likes of Progress, even last night, Future Shock Wrestling, the ICW here today. How many different parties are involved in coming together in producing such an amazing event like this, particularly when you're bringing in kind of current stars, past stars. I know like Gilbert Boyas from Valentine Appearances here. You've got like the likes of Lee McAteer driving a huge amount of things. Poor Chris Brooker seems to be, flat out all day long. So how much in terms of year-long planning you touched on there, how many different moving parts are involved in that, and who kind of is the final say on all of those things?
It's incredible. It's I'm just one sort of small cog in the overall wheel of Love of Wrestling. What really helps with Love of Wrestling is the reputation of the brand. We're now in our 5th year, our 3rd show. Obviously we sort of got a couple of years caught out because of COVID, but this is the 3rd show, and as the show's grown, the brand has grown. For every year we have a show, we've got 20, 30, 40 guests that are all going back to the US, and we know from word of mouth that those people are going back to the US and going, you guys have got to do this show. These guys are just really slick professionals. And then they're the words that were given to me by Eric Bischoff, who didn't when he came over on our first show. And we know like any industry, like your workplace, there's WhatsApp groups and everybody talks, and wrestlers are very like that, but wrestlers live from sort of booking to booking. But yeah, we know that's sort of from the feedback we had, that we have a great reputation in the States amongst the wrestling community, and that really helps us. But yeah, I mean, we're very lucky because of how many great people within the UK we get to work with. Progress Wrestling guys are phenomenal. Lee and all his team are really great to work with. Future Shock as well, and they're similar to us. They never stop. It's not about us just putting on something every year, booking 20 guests and hoping it turns out great. We're already working on what we can do next year to make it better. How do we drive, increase the satisfaction from the fans? Me and Lee McAteer were sat nursing a cold pint of lager last night about 11:30 in the bar, talking about what if we did this next year? What if we did this next year? How and that's the passion that sits behind it. I think the great thing with Full of Wrestling, and it comes all the way from the top, from Andy, my boss, is that everybody's a wrestling fan. So what you've not got here is you've not got a team of 10 people, say for instance, who are convention organisers, who are putting on a wrestling convention because we think we'll make some money out of that. We're putting on a wrestling convention, and then, as I say, it comes from Andy at the top because we're wrestling fans. And I think the reason why it's so successful and why it does work so well is because the number one question we ask ourselves is, and I ask myself this every day, I'm a wrestling fan for the last 35 years, would I want to go to this convention? And that really helps steer your decision making. And if you think, is something a good idea, is something not a good idea, that's the question to ask. And I go to wrestling conventions all over the world. I was in WrestleCon last year in Dallas, and I even go there, and I love WrestleCon, but I even go walk around WrestleCon and go, well, we do that better. I like the fact that we do that and they don't. But you might even see someone go, actually, oh yeah, look at the way they do their queuing. Yeah, we're going to move that forward. So we're taking on what we do. We're driven by how passionate we are as wrestling fans, but we're also learning from people all around the globe as well to make sure that we are the pinnacle, and that's the overall goal. That right now we're the biggest wrestling convention in Europe. We want to be the best wrestling convention in the world.
And I think that passion kind of shines through. Like you said, you were at WrestleCon last year. I was actually over in Dallas with Lee and the wrestling travel crew. It was absolutely brilliant. That was my first kind of exposure to a wrestling convention itself. and you said there is a distinct difference, even just in the atmosphere and how helpful I suppose your staff are, and how accommodating a lot of your staff are. Like I know the wrestling travel people were brilliant, particularly helping people say with special needs or whatnot. And that kind of, you can see that similarity here today, like people being prioritised, be it the different cues. You wouldn't necessarily have that in other wrestling conventions, and I suppose it does feed back into like for the love of wrestling. There's a reason why it's not necessarily. Obviously, it's a money driving event, but it's also there's an enjoyment and a love behind that as well, which kind of separates you guys from other conventions. But something that I found very interesting this weekend is you're running a separate convention at the same time for the love of MMA, and the same venue, with obviously very different fan type. You'll also drive a very different type of guest appearances as well, and even further complicated matters. People keeping people separate rather, on top of doing things like a grappling event and tutorials for different fans. How has that balance been, and was there any additional intricacies you had to keep in mind when kind of booking conversely two separate conventions at the same time in the same venue?
Keeping the bloody guests where they're meant to be, because they keep going over to talk to each other, and I'm totally joking there, because the guests seem to know each other from MMA side. George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, they've got friends within the wrestling community. You've got people within the MMA, like Santino. Santino has got a mixed martial arts gym himself. Kevin Nash ran a mixed martial arts gym when he was younger. Goldberg had the biggest mixed martial arts gym in North America in like the mid 90s. So there's a huge crossover with communities with theirs, and I think there's a big, a fairly decent crossover with the fan base as well. If you like wrestling, there's a good chance you're gonna like boxing or martial arts and things like that. And we like, if you're a wrestling fan, you like fast-paced action, and that's exactly what MMA is. So yeah, there is a crossover. There's been no sort of thoughts about, the fan bases aren't going to get on. I think we've been surprised by how many people have come and enjoyed both events. So yeah, it's been really fun, but it's something we've learned about, and we'll take it away and we'll talk then next week around, did it work? We want to do it again? Would we not want to do it again? Yeah, but the guests and their interactions have been amazing. I was sat luckily driving a car this morning. We saw George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva and Paul White, formerly known as the Big Show, in it, and they were just you'd have thought they'd have been mates for life, the way they were just cracking on. They had each other in stitches, and again, that's something which I think goes under the radar a little bit to do with our convention. We don't book 30 names that we think will just do well. We try and book 30 names that we think work well together, and what I mean by that is, you've seen this one, but in the 40 years that some of these guys have been wrestling, there's never been an event where you could get a picture taken with Diamond Dallas Page and Kevin Nash and Booker T and Goldberg, so we really wanted to do that. So that's a world first that we've done, and we booked them because we wanted to do that. We've got Demolition and the Powers of Pain here. Powers of Pain have never ever appeared in the UK as a team. There's a first. Powers of Pain and Demolition have never appeared together as a photo in the UK. So in Europe, so we wanted to do that as a thing. The Pillar and the Killer, Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker, they've never done something in the UK, so we wanted to do that. So for us, and again, that just goes back to us being wrestling fans, what would we do? What would really excite us as wrestling fans? And that's what we try and do. We try and do fun duos, teams, reunions, and we've got loads of plans and things that we want to do moving forward. We're sort of thinking it'd be really great to do like an ECW reunion one year. What would it be like if we managed to get like the Right to Censor guys back together? Just all that fun stuff. Can we get Jimmy Hart and Rhythm and Blues back together? It's sort of something that me as a huge Golden Era fan I'd like to see. Just fun stuff like that.
That's amazing. It was just something that occurred to me when I was kind of meandering between the two different halls yesterday. You've booked, particularly on the MMA side, you've booked contracted UFC talent. How difficult was that for you, first of all? And then conversely, now that WWE is affiliated under the Endeavour banner, is there any opportunities going forward for you, say for 2024, booking contracted WWE talent for an event like this, provided obviously schedules align like around the UK tour and whatnot?
We've done we've already done single events. We've got a great relationship with WWE. We actually put on a WWE Superstar show in this building, and it was the week when Bray Wyatt won his first world title. He won it on the Monday, and he came here on the Saturday with the title title in hand. When we had and we had, got to think who else we had over at that show. Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, they were all here. Bobby Lashley. We work well with WWE. We have done for many years. We've got a great relationship with them. We're building a great relationship with the AEW guys. The sky's the limit. We want to work with everybody within the wrestling community.
That's absolutely amazing. Luckily enough, this is my first year for Love of Wrestling, and I've been raving about it back to my colleagues and friends. I'll be back home to make sure to go out of your way to come to this next year. It's only across the road, essentially, from Ireland to here. This is your third event. Now, what have been the biggest challenges across those 3 years? What have you learned going from year to year to improve that product? I'd say it's always an ongoing process, something different every year. But going into 2024, what have you taken to these last 3 years, and what can you expect? Slightly different, maybe, or what challenges you can implement for the years ahead?
I think what we've learned is try and get a broad spectrum. I think that works well and attracts the audience. What I mean by that is the first year was good, but maybe did we have too many perhaps Attitude Era sort of type guests, and now we think, well, you know what, we've got Demolition from sort of the mid Powers of Pain from the mid-80s right the way through till even the current very young women's AEW champ. Variance is good, because it's like everything. It's like food, like music. Everybody likes a little different thing. So we do that. That's obviously probably something that we've learned. I say go with your gut. Think about I'm a wrestling fan, but I like to do this. That's always a good steer. That's something we've learned. And the biggest challenge is this year, for instance, obviously we've moved from our Liverpool, which was our previous venue for the last 2 ones, over to here, and that presents challenges as well. Luckily, this venue's owned by our boss, but that presents its challenges of how do we condense that show into here. Normally we've got one big massive open space. In this venue we've got like almost smaller spaces, compact spaces, but lots of different ones. So how does that last year's show transition into an event like this? And the feedback we're getting from everybody is they're really liking it, because in a big open spaces, and as much as we love Liverpool, we put 2 shows on there a year. What that does in that sort of space is it only really allows you to have one noisy thing going on at one time, because it's such a big echoey room. Whereas here we can have live wrestling over here and a panel over here, and big noisy prop builds over there, and a class going on over there. So the space allows us to adapt to more things going on at the same time. We can spin more plates, which means there's more on offer to fans.
That's amazing. What I found really interesting was kind of doing my own, looking into kind of Monopoly events. This was my first time being exposed to you guys this year. The amount of different conventions you guys specialise in, for the love of sci-fi, for the love of horror. Yeah. What do you guys have on the agenda for the remaining of 2024? Because obviously, in the wrestling space, there's a huge crossover, particularly those kind of genres.
We've got some amazing stuff coming up this year. I'm not allowed to reveal it, and I'm not sure we're going to put this out, but we have one hell of a guest being announced this week. And when I say one hell of a guest, I've been a wrestling fan a long time, and it's I can tell you that it is. It may be wrestling themed, and I think this one could, this one's big. So put Comic-Con Liverpool in October in your diaries, because I've got a funny feeling that a lot of wrestling fans are going to want to come to this one. So that's the first thing. We've also got all our other exciting shows. We've got one of the flagship show in Scotland, which is Comic-Con Scotland. That's one of ours. We've got Comic-Con Wales. Last year we had John Cena down there. This year we're bringing another phenomenal lineup there. We're going back to Northern Ireland for our second event. We had a great lineup there last year. The guys in Belfast responded to it brilliantly, so we're taking that back for a second year. And we've also got 2 new shows, which is Comic-Con North East in Newcastle, and also Comic-Con Yorkshire as well. So again, lots of exciting new stuff, and lots of sort of our annual cons coming up as well.
That sounds absolutely incredible. I think you kind of nailed the head. Everything about this weekend has been filled with excitement.
Yeah.
And first and foremost, from my own experience, the first time here, I've loved every second of it. There's a relaxed atmosphere. People get to be themselves from the offset.
And I hope that comes up. We're here, we're working incredibly long hours under an insane amount of stress, but we're absolutely loving doing it. It's so much fun, and working with such a phenomenal team. From Andy down, and I'm learning constantly from Andy. I'm learning constantly from people around me, which is great as well. So we're all growing as people, but we're really all loving what we're doing.
Absolutely, and you provide an experience, myself included, that's absolutely once in a lifetime, and something I won't forget anytime soon.
Good.
And I'll be singing it from the rooftops going forward to make sure all my friends, wrestling friends based in Ireland, to make sure go out of their way to attend any future Comic-Con events based in the future for Love of Wrestling events next year in 2024. James, listen, I've taken up enough of your time. You're running here, there, and everywhere. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much this weekend as well.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Nice one.